what's your title?
As it stands, I'm just an enthusiast. That's what I call myself.
Enthusiast.
A connoisseur, enthusiast. Okay. Those are the two words I lean towards. Yeah, because all of this is self-taught. You know what I mean? Like, just raw. So, marijuana being illegal has absolutely nothing to do with marijuana. It's actually tied up in a very old racial situation. Back in the early 1900s, Pancho Villa and his boys were bringing good shit from Mexico. They were bringing it into like Texas, and so the parts of Texas they were bringing it into, it was affluent white neighborhoods with you know, white people in general, the rich ones, the poor ones. It was their area. You know, the country was very much, you stay here, you stay there, you stay here, and nobody crosses. But where they were coming into Texas was where the whites lived. And so there were blacks who wanted weed. There were Mexicans who wanted weed, who lived in Texas, and they were coming there. And so the whites were like, you know, we don't want this shit in our neighborhood. We want the weed, but we don't want these motherfuckers to be able to come here. So they came up with this tax law. And there's this guy, Anslinger. He was a politician. And he brought about a tax bill that basically said you can't purchase any goods of any kind or basically spend any money in a neighborhood that you didn't live in. It was a zoning tax shit. And so for years, at this point, about 100 years, people have thought that marijuana is illegal because the government doesn't know how to tax it because of that bill. But it really was a way to politely say, we don't want the niggas and the spics in our neighborhood. My raw honey here. And so this is good because you got to basically bring it back to life. You know, like when you have a plant that's dying at your house, you just like, you know, oh, let me water it. And then, it came back to life. So that's basically what you do with the banana leaf. And so now it's nice and, yeah, it's malleable now.
Okay.
And so you can see some of the debris in the water because this is an actual banana leaf peeled. You know, so when the bananas were harvested, so you just want to blot off some of the water. Doesn't have to be completely dry. It's best actually if it's still a little moist. And so you just load it up.
What? Wait a minute.
What?
Oh, from back here that looked like 3.5.
You know what? Let's see how much it is. Let's weigh it out.
Because we get ready to become way more friendly than you ever knew. That's what you're doing.
It's only 2 grams. It's only 2 grams.
You said only 2 grams.
Like, yeah, it's only 2 grams.
1.5 off. So, you know what I mean? Like, I'm going to go ahead and take that as a win.
I mean, I smoke, you know? So, yeah.
Now I know.
I told you. And, you know, it's so funny because I don't know if it's because I'm a woman, but whenever I tell people I smoke, and it could be men or women, and they're like, oh, okay, you smoke, okay. Until they actually see me smoke, and they're like, oh, bitch, you smoke. You smoke.
On the education tip, what has been your most educational tool?
I had to say my trip to Colorado.
Okay. And what did you find out there?
I didn't find out much more than what I knew, but the thing that I did find out that I didn't know was invaluable. And so I took a couple of classes with the cannabis chef, and he basically took me back to my roots and, you know, how the Native Americans use every part of anything. There is no waste. If you kill a buffalo, you don't throw out the teeth, you don't throw out the hooves. Every part of the buffalo will be used for the greater good because the death will not be in vain. Same applies to marijuana. So that's why companies like Raw that use the hemp or, you know, hemp oil or hemp seed, they use the whole plant. I have such a respect for it because there's so much benefit. So most people, when they make their butter, after they drain all of the cannabis from it, they throw the weed out. You done soak this weed literally in butter for almost a day. You can't smoke it, throw that shit in the trash. That's the thought. What I learned from this man is that you keep that weed. Because while you have extracted about 90% of the THC from it, there's still a small amount of THC and the CBD is still there. So when I make a dry rub, I make cannabis dry rubs because I like to cook with weed a lot. Or a seasoning pack of any nature. I keep that puck, that ounce or half or however much butter I made, I keep it in my freezer. Marijuana is a natural preservative, so that's why when you buy edibles like brownies, like you could buy some regular ass brownies and they might mold and you're like, shit. You ever notice your edibles do not mold? Because marijuana is a natural preservative. So I put it in the freezer, and if I want to like make some ribs, pull it out, crumble it up, and it's already moist because it's soaked in butter. You just, rub it on there. And because of the butter that was in it, it's already going to connect with the moisture. Yeah, that was probably the best thing for me, was sitting with him and learning exact doses, the science and the math behind dosing when it comes to edibles. Because there's a misconception to just dump a bunch of weed in y'all and get high as shit. But weed is just like, THC is just kind of like vitamin C. Your body is only going to absorb a certain amount of it at a time. So no matter how much you put in, it ain't taking but so much. And everybody's body is different, of course, but that's how you wind up getting sick. People don't know the difference in a sativa, an indica, or hybrid. This is gelato. Gelato is a hybrid. And it's slowly becoming one of my favorite hybrids. I'm a sativa girl because I got shit to do, so I need to be up and on at all times. I ain't got time to lay around. Right. And so I started getting more into hybrids because I've noticed that there are moments when I need to kind of come down a little bit because I am so high strung as an individual. And so I'm like, all right, let me play with some hybrids. First hybrid I ever fell in love with was wedding cake. It's just a good high. And so my first experience with wedding cake was in the oil, in the vape. I was like, oh, that's nice. All right, cool. I was able to function and get shit done. And so when I got a chance to have it in flower form, I was like, yes, that's the winner, that's the winner. But gelato, man, the euphoria I experienced with gelato, nothing was, what? Problems? Who got problems? Bitch, I ain't got no problems. I'm all right. You got problems, ho? I don't. I got gelato. You know what I mean? Like, I was just like, the euphoria was unmatched, but I wasn't so happy, high, floaty that I couldn't function. And I said gelato's all right with me. And so I almost never buy the same strain more than once. But gelato, I think this is about the third or fourth time I bought it. Sour Diesel is my hands down favorite strain of all time. It's a sativa. And I love it. I love the way it makes me feel. Sour Diesel is a great sex weed, by the way. The entire body tingles and everything is stimulated and it makes orgasms amazing. Whether alone or with someone else, it's still a good fucking time. I always get fucked up because it be at night and I be like, I love this Sour Diesel high. I'm gonna smoke this shit. And then I'm like, it's like 3 a.m. and I'm rearranging the fucking furniture and shit. Then remade the bed while my wife in it sleep. Then changed the sheets. She wake up like, what the fuck is going on? Bitch, I smoked a sativa before we went to sleep. I fucked up. And so it gives you this energy and you're just like going and going. It's definitely, any sativa is definitely a before I got shit to do type of vibe. Right. Definitely. So this is my handy dandy. As you can see, I'm a raw girl. These are clear papers.
Is all of that organic? All the raw papers
all
organic?
All raw is organic. Okay. And so even with the clear papers, that's another brand I like, Glass.
Shout outs to Raw Paper. And y'all see this, you need to give my girl a
yes, I love them. I got raw tray, raw papers, everything. And so with these, they're vegan. And so basically it's polymer extracted from the plant cell. And basically plant fat is what this is. So this is definitely vegan. And even with his wraps, look, raw, here's raw black, different sizes, they're made from hemp. And so hemp is a byproduct of marijuana. So the marijuana that you smoke is the leaves, the flower. The hemp is something elements. This is another raw product. Like raw has a lot of stuff. So the guy who owns Raw, just the foundation in general, they give a lot of money back to like third world countries. So they build schools, irrigation systems, clean water. Like they do a lot, which is another reason that I like to buy from Raw because.
Well, damn, you just put me on. That's the reason I would buy them.
Exactly. The proceeds go to a lot of good shit. So. Okay. And then it's just a smooth ass burn. I'm gonna speak to like the products because I'm a product junkie. You know what I mean? Like. Most black women are natural hair care product junkies, and I'm like a weed product junkie. Like, is a new gadget that does something or makes things more convenient for me? Here's my money. Here you go. Take my money. You can have it. What? This does what? This will help me what? This is what? What? I love gadgets. I'm an American. We love technology. And so that is really where the money goes. Like, that's the part that fascinates me because weed is going to be there. It's always been there. That's not going to change. The innovation in cannabis comes from the products that people are developing. That's where the innovation comes in. Knowledge is power, and I'm a black woman. I'm a gay black woman. I'm from the inner city. I still live in the city, and that's a demographic that tends to be powerless. If I have something that can advance my people, why not give it to them? Why not break down that negative stigma for the weed and for the black people? Because as it stands, people of color, especially blacks, are being incarcerated at exponentially higher rates than non-people of color over cannabis. There are systemic processes that yield the result that isn't true. And so you can tell me, Maryland, that I can legally treat my ailments with marijuana instead of the Western meds that I've been using. I've chosen a more holistic, healthier approach. You've told me that I can legally do that. Thank you. Let's say I become unemployed or my job decides to randomly do a urinalysis that they wouldn't have normally done for whatever reason. If that THC comes up in your urine and their policy is against it, there's no protection for you as a patient whatsoever. I literally had one place tell me, I said, this is legal with the state of Maryland. And they literally said to me, we don't recognize that. We don't recognize that. And so systemically, that stereotype of people who use marijuana sitting around all day, smoking weed, being lazy, being unproductive and unemployed and not contributing to society is being perpetuated by the fact that you don't have any protection for your patients in Maryland. And there are other states that have put an employment clause into their laws so that patients can that cannot be discriminated against in employment because of their medical marijuana status. We don't have that here in Maryland. So I got two alternatives. I can either stop treating with cannabis and get myself clean long enough to obtain employment. Or, and that means suffering, because those of us who treat for pain, migraines, that's bad. That's a real bad thing to go from treating for your pain and now you don't have your pain meds at all for however long that it's going to take you to find a job. So that's the first alternative. The second alternative is I completely go off these meds, off of my marijuana meds, and go back to Western meds and start pumping the medications prescribed by Big Pharma, the toxins that I'm 9 times out of 10 using marijuana to treat their effects from. You know, so you got one of two things. And so basically, if you can't afford to be holistic, you don't get to be. And if you have a record, it doesn't matter what the record is, it can be all nonviolent. You add weed in the mix, you're going up the river.
Even now, even with laws changing in
the laws are changing, but as much as things change, they tend to stay the same. And so there's always going to be somebody who is against things for different reasons. And it's a money game. Like right now, in 2018, weed is a money game. If you got some money, jump on that shit now. You don't have to smoke weed. You could hate weed. But if you want to really be a part of this, you want to get in on the shit now before the market is overly saturated, because it's already saturated. But there's still some wiggle room for you if you want to get into this. Somebody has got to tell the truth about the healing properties of marijuana, the real, true healing properties of marijuana. Somebody has got to tell that.